Hey guys, it's Blake here, and today I want to tell you about a really cool strategy that's overlooked in the real estate investing space but has a huge potential to make you a lot of money, especially in a tight market when deals are hard to come by. Because right now it's not enough to just look for what everyone else is. You have to think outside the box and not just find a good deal, but make a good deal with a more creative approach to identifying good real estate investment opportunities. And I've personally used this strategy to make about $500,000 in equity over the last 3 years, including a house I sold last year for a $100,000 profit. And then we just purchased a house in Ogden, Utah, a really expensive market where home prices have more than doubled in the last 5 years. And it's appreciated 50% in just the last 3 years. And we're working on living close to free in this house with the addition of the second of 2 rental units on the property. So I got my start in real estate investing using this strategy, and I've purchased 6 properties since using this same strategy. And all that were extremely cash flow positive, usually $1,000 a month net if I rented both units or living for free while making a little bit of cash flow living in the house. And since then, I've expanded this strategy into a commercial real estate and own 5 boutique hotels right now with our company Adventure Stays that my partner and I started a year and a half ago. We're on track to do $3 million in revenue this year alone. So the strategy is to look for single family homes with an extra unit, whether it's a guest house or a mother-in-law apartment or a basement apartment, or really any other kind of rentable space or a rentable unit on the property. This is separate from duplexes or triplexes or fourplexes, which are multifamily properties, and they're marketed as such. So as house hacking has become more popular as a strategy for entering into the real estate investing with low risk and low out-of-pocket costs, the demand for these small multifamily properties has really gone up. That's because you can get a residential loan on anything 4 units or under, so you can get the lowest down payment and you can get the lowest rates by making the property your primary residence and then renting out the other units. And this strategy that I'm talking about can be used for both house hacking and pure investment property that you don't live in. I bought houses under both scenarios with really good results on both of those. And the reason for finding a single family house with an extra rentable unit is so powerful is because houses with extra units are less sought after. Even though they have the same appeal from an investment standpoint with the extra unit, and real estate agents who get these listings often mislist them, or they'll undermarket them, or they don't even know or include the fact that there is the extra rentable unit. I found several of the houses that I've bought with an extra unit or the units just by scrolling through pictures and finding an extra kitchen or something like that in the pictures and then putting the pieces together about how it could be turned into that extra unit. So you have a lot less demand and competition from the buying side, and you can purchase the house for the price of just the house. The extra unit is not usually priced in like it is with a duplex or a triplex. They're often priced on a per listing basis. And then with the single family houses, this extra unit, they're usually valued as like a square foot approach based on comps in the area. And as this strategy grows in popularity, you're going to benefit on the back end with the increased equity, especially if you sell it and find a savvy agent who knows how to market properties well, and you work with them to call out the features and not only makes the house great, but how you could live in it as a prospective buyer or as an investment property with a house hack. And right now, buyers are being more pushed out of the market because though prices are starting to flatten out and even come down in some areas, high interest rates just chops the legs off of the affordability for buyers. Multi-generational living, I think, is going to become a big thing going forward. Think of a place like Hawaii where home affordability in its own is its own epidemic. So home prices are so high that it's not uncommon to see 3 generations under the same roof because grandparents or the kids, they can't afford to live on their own or have their own place, so they live together. And it's a big reason why Ohana units there, that extra rentable unit, is a big thing. I think the same thing is going to happen or start to happen across the country as wage raise way lower than home prices, or in this case interest rates, both of which hurt affordability for buyers and create additional demand for houses with the extra living spaces to accommodate for these multi-generational families living together. So the normal house is going to sit on the market longer, while if you have a house with an extra unit on the market, you'll have an increased buyer pool as buyers, as it goes on. But the good thing is you can get in and still find these underutilized, undermarketed houses right now to find good deals if you're an investor looking for deals, or your first house hack, buyer looking to get into the real estate investing market with house hacking. So let's go check out Zillow. I'm going to show you guys how to find properties like these with some of the search filters and other strategies that I use there. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this strategy, because it's one thing to know that it works, but that's a whole nother thing to actually know how to put it into practice and know what to look for when you're actually looking at properties. So I got up Zillow here and I wanted to show you guys what I have. So like I have on my save searches here, different things when I save these filters. So I want to go to one right here, the SLC mother-in-law with boundaries. So it just kind of highlights my farm area of places that I wanted to look. And then one of the most important features here is the keyword filter. So right now I have this set to mother-in-law, and I apply that, and it's got all these different properties, 73 listings that have mother-in-law in the listing. And then what I'll usually do is go from price low to high, right? Because we're looking for the best priced home that we can find. And I hearted this one as just an example. You can see it's been on the market for 137 days, and this is my area. So yours is going to be different with the price and square footage and age of the home and different criteria like that. But probably ready for a deal if it's been on the market for 137 days. But you can see here, like what I look for in the listing description is exactly this: mother-in-law apartment with potential with 2 kitchens here. So what I'm looking for now is, I know it's got it, but I want to see the pictures and see the condition. So I see 1 kitchen here, the living room, pretty outdated. Probably want to update this and put in some TLC. Then you see the second kitchen. And oftentimes when you're scrolling through the listings, you might just see that second kitchen without even noticing it in the comments. Because like I said, agents, real estate agents, there's a very low barrier to entry. So a lot of the times they don't exactly know how to market these properties. So that's a really good point about working with a good agent, both on the buying and the selling side, to get you the best deal in both scenarios. But this one does have this second kitchen. So right here, we see in the basement, I would say based on like the lowness of the ceilings, these are probably the bedrooms downstairs, a pretty tight bathroom, probably the bathroom downstairs. So this one definitely needs some work. I don't know what that is, maybe the entry to the basement unit and somewhere in this area. But you can see it's got the multiple levels. It's got this parking area wide enough for the, probably 2 cars, right? If you were to live in the house, or if you were to have 2 separate tenants, right? They'd both have parking, which is an important thing to think about as well. So this has one. Move my face off of here. But this is what I would look for. And I bought several houses this way. Another one I really like to do is go to this filters and go to look for apartment, apply that, and then you get a whole different set of listings here. So I was looking at this one a minute ago, but as you look in here, built in 1974, not crazy old, just had a price cut, so they're probably looking to make a deal as well. And then on the listing notes here, kind of just read through, see basement apartment with 3 bedrooms has been conveniently decided for extra income. So right now, at this stage, you've identified that this is a potential deal. It's a lead, right? It might not be the best deal. You still have to run your numbers on it, but this is how you kind of fill the top of the funnel of getting these properties in, to be able to screen them and see if it's going to be a good deal. Just scrolling through again, look for the same thing. So this is an open living concept with the living room and the kitchen here, bathrooms, renovated pretty nicely. And you see the stairway. So this is probably the basement here with that second kitchen. Obviously missing appliances, so you'd have to factor that into your cost to turn the listing into a rental. Nothing crazy. But then you think about like the marketability to tenants. It's got this nice outdoor space, could put some furniture out here. It's got, looks like street parking, garage for probably the person in the main home, big driveway. So it looks like they got the parking, they've got the extra unit. This could be a potential deal. So then at this stage, what you want to do is go in and analyze these properties and kind of decide your strategy. And what I do mostly is short-term rental. So I've got the 2 different scenarios here, short-term rental and long-term rental. And the difference being basically all the expenses under the mortgage here. On the short-term rental side, like you're going to have to pay for landscaping. You're going to have to pay for the water, sewer, garbage, because you have short-term rental guests. Obviously, they're not going to pay your utility bills for you. Same thing with the electric and gas. Wi-Fi, that's one you often forget it's cheap though. Normally 40 to 60 bucks a month. So I put 45 here. And these are just example numbers too. Supplies is something you got to think about. Soap, shampoo, dish soap, sponges for the kitchen, all those different supplies that you need to replace every, handful of reservations or whatever it is, maybe every month if it's just one unit. And then you want to total up all your expenses. I think rules of thumb for the short-term rental tax, I just put 5%. That's what we pay in like our Panama City Beach market, for example. And some markets don't have this, but I put it here just to, have you thinking about when you look at these properties. Maintenance and repairs, usually 3%. Over on the long-term rental side, I put 5% as kind of the rule of thumb for vacancy, maintenance and repairs, and CapEx. Depending on the age and the condition of the home, you can, increase these or lower them. But I think 5% is a good rule of thumb. And then I just went with something that would be a little bit higher than that for the short-term rental side, because you're going to have, more guests in and out, maybe a little bit more wear and tear on, the carpet or certain appliances, the couch, different things like that. With the nuance of short-term rental guests usually take better care of your property than, say, a tenant would that's living there, all the time, right? You have vacancy, typically 25 to 35%, depending on your market over the course of the year. So it sits vacant a lot of time, or not a lot of the time, but a good portion of the time. So it's not always being used, whereas you have that with the long-term rental. But sticking in this column B for the short-term rental, I didn't include vacancy because that's typically how I do it anyway, calculated into the income, the projected monthly incomes here. So if it was $3,000, right, I would take what the market occupancy is times the market average daily rate, and to get the projected monthly income, right? So if the say the vacancy was 50%, the average nightly rate was $500, you'd have 2,500. So there you go. But that's what you'd so I'm including the vacancy in my rental number. And then as you go through property management, I put 15%. It can be as high as 20%, depending on your area, maybe even 25%. But if you're gonna live there in househack, you might just take that off of both of these scenarios if you're going to manage it yourself. But I like to project it with the property management in place, because at some point in the future, you're going to move out of the next house and turn this into a true rental. So you want to project and make sure that it cash flows, or at least gets to your desired outcome with property management in place. And of course, your taxes, insurance, and mortgage, which are going to be the same whether you do short-term rental or long-term rental, depending on maybe your insurance. And then what you do is total up your expenses, and then take your projected income minus your projected total expenses to get your monthly income. Right here, this 517, obviously divide by or multiply by 12 to get your annual income. And then what I think is really important is not just looking at that gross number, right? This, I guess this would be the net number, but what I mean is like just that number, but also look at your cash on cash return. That's what the COC ROI is. Your cash on cash return, which is going to be your total invested over your annual income. That's how much you're making that, on an annual basis on the money you've put into the property. And then for total return, this is, kind of up to you, but I put in here like a 5%, and then projecting like you're paying off 0.5 of your principal every year. So that adds to your total return with your principal pay down and also your market appreciation. But what I would look at really is like, are these two numbers, and that kind of just, gives you another gauge. Then over here on the long-term rental side, typically what you see is kind of in line with these numbers is about half. You'd make about half if you rented long-term rental compared to short-term. And of course, that's market dependent, but using this for example purposes, right? Because once you find the property, right, it's the house with the guest house and the mother-in-law apartment, you have the option to, rent it out on Airbnb, VRBO, whatever, or just put a tenant in there. Both are completely feasible. I've done both. They both work. Just depends on what you want to do, how active you want to be, and, I guess your own flavor of investing. But again, what you're going to see on this is you're going to see obviously much lower the income or annual income based on, the difference between short-term rental and long-term rental. And then what I would do here, what my advice is make sure that you can, as a long-term rental, that you can at least break even, especially if like your main strategy is going to be like short-term rental. because you want to have that downside protection. If you have a really slow market, if your area changes its regulations and you can no longer do stays less than 30 days and you have to go to long term, then make sure that as a long-term rental, you can still at least break even, and then your total return based on appreciation. Obviously, if you're in a Southern California market, this might be like 10%, and then you've actually got a pretty good return based on the money that you've put in, which in this case would be just that difference minus the furnishing. So you're going to put in the same amount of money to get those two investments up. Short term, you're going to have to obviously furnish the place. When you're going to do it, rent it long term, your tenants are going to bring their own furniture. And this just gives you a little mortgage calculator using the payment function here and your inputs based on your purchase price. And that is where that comes from. Now, the thing that I can tell you, but I can't necessarily teach you how to do it because it really goes into, your style of investing, the kind of properties you're looking for, like what your ideal investment is. But what I want to tell you is look for the photos, especially if you see something that maybe like a photo that's got a house in the background, or it's got some extra building or space that might be able to be converted. Like, for example, I will show a house we bought in Florida that we lived in for 2 years and made a little bit of money the whole time. Is when I first saw this listing, I saw this back in the background here, but that is the apartment right here. This section in the front is the garage, and it kind of just talked about having the extra garage space, and just happened to mention the word apartment back there, and then had a few photos of the actual apartment, but it just kind of went right from the main house into this apartment, so you couldn't really discern what was what, and the listing was very bad. But just by doing the strategy a lot, looking for houses with the guest houses, because that was kind of like my main thing at that time, I found this. So by looking for whatever it is in that listing, it could be the extra kitchen, it could be a space in the basement that could be converted. Another great strategy, like creating that rental unit with extra space, or having some kind of detached space or detached unit that you can create and turn into that extra rentable unit. Especially it's really nice when you live in the main house and it's detached, and then you really never have to interact or share a wall with your tenant or your guest if you do short-term rental. So those are some additional tips on how to find properties like these. I hope that's helpful for you. All right, so I hope this quick and dirty was helpful to show you what's possible when looking for deals. Yes, the market is in turmoil right now, and more or less interest rates are really high, but you can still find good deals. It's all about how you approach it, what you're looking for, and how you can kind of expand your creativity to find good deals that might be sitting right in front of you, or on Zillow that you're just skipping by because you're not looking for the right things. So yes, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes can still be great investments, but I've had much better success in my own history of buying these houses with a guest house. I think 7 in total now. A lot of equity, all have been cash flow positive, if not like break even while I'm living there, even make a little bit of money. And it's how we've built up a lot of wealth so far, and that has gave us the experience and the repetitions to get into bigger deals and feel prepared for those bigger deals by just stacking up a smaller portfolio, getting really good at this one investment strategy by looking and learning how to find these different deals. So I hope that's helpful to you. And before we get out of here, please like and subscribe. Like the video, share it with somebody if you think this would help them, or if they're complaining that they can't find deals. Like, I promise you, there are deals out there. It's just what you can how can you change your parameters to find better deals in this tough market. Like I said, we're in Ogden, Utah, very competitive market. We bought an almost $800,000 house, which is just crazy to me to think about, especially when we started investing and could barely afford a $200,000 house. But it's because it has these extra rentable units, and that's why I think you can do it, in any market in the country, no matter where you're at, by being smart, by out competing on the search side of your deal criteria and how you can find these things. So I hope this was helpful. Before you go, please subscribe and keep bringing you guys more good content. So see you next time.